Next on Up Close, for much of the season, he was coaching college football's #1 team. Florida State's Bobby Bowden on what happened to the Seminoles, what's wrong with today's college athlete, who's now #1, and why the fire within still burns. Up Close is up next. Hi, how are you? Chris Myers here in Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good holiday weekend. In a moment, we'll hook up with the always candid Bobby Bowden following what was a wild, wild weekend in college football. I guess the Bowl Coalition knew what it was doing all along. First, to check out some of the stories making news today and a deal in the NBA. The Vancouver Grizzlies and Milwaukee Bucks work a trade. Benoit Benjamin goes to the Bucks. Vancouver receives guard Eric Murdoch and backup center Eric Mobley. Staying in the NBA, Chris Webber practiced with his team today for the first time since injuring his shoulder. The Bullets say they may activate him later this week. Webber had been rehabbing that dislocated left shoulder. He still must serve his one-game suspension for fighting with Luke Longley in an October preseason game against the Bulls. Webber actually believes that he initially hurt that shoulder during the fight. The 8-4 Eagles, turning to the NFL, signed 37-year-old wide receiver Art Monk to a one-year contract. He'll step in as the third receiver in Philadelphia with Kelvin Martin injured. Monk played 14 years with the Redskins, but last played as a New York Jet last season. In college football, Rutgers fired head football coach Doug Graber. He had a 4-7 record this year, his 6th season. Graber had accused Joe Paterno and Penn State of running up the score earlier this year. Graber had just 2 winning seasons and 2 years remaining on his contract with the Scarlet Knights. Now to baseball, and Wizard GM Pat Gillick, who helped build the Blue Jays to back-to-back World Series titles, is coming out of retirement to run the Orioles. He signs a 3-year contract as Baltimore's general manager. And here is something you might not have been aware of. Gillick played for 5 years with the Orioles as a minor leaguer and was a teammate of new manager Davey Johnson back in 1962. Baseball better off having a man like Gillick back in the game. The first Colorado Rocky to start in an All-Star game has been re-signed by the team. Third baseman Vinny Castilla agrees to a 2-year deal with the Rocks. He hit 309, 32 home runs this season, and 90 runs batted in as Colorado went on to make the playoffs. SportsCenter will have more on these stories. Up next, the story on college football with Florida State's Bobby Bowden. More than 4 decades as a head coach, Bowden has won 10 consecutive bowl games. We'll get his thoughts on who's #1 now and on running up the score in the college game today. Stay with us. I hope you will.
Up Close is brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT, the way to save on collect calls.
My brother, I can't believe. Spent all your dough on weekend leave. Gotta call home, but you ain't got no cash. You gonna eat that corned beef hash? Call 1-800-COLLECT, save them some bucks.
It's next to the kitchen. It's in the park. It's over the bakery. It's the new American workplace. And today, about 40 million of us have an office there with our own dreams, our own ideas, our own ways of getting the job done. And to help get it done a little easier or faster, we turn to our branch office. Kinko's, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Branch office for the new American workplace. Wherever it is.
All right, gentlemen. Tomorrow, your butts are mine. Lights out. Man, I'm hungry.
Russell Athletic Wear is made to handle the toughest situations on and off the field.
Hot dog. French fries. Hamburger. Tacos. Tacos grande. Pizza. Coach, going somewhere, ladies. Hard work. Dedication. Commitment.
Get Russell Athletic. Get tough.
Get up there, Lord, but go.
In the old days, building a railroad was hard work. But now, it's easy, thanks to the exclusive new Bachmann Easy Track system. Easy Track snaps together and stays together. On floors, tables, and even carpets. No nails or special tools needed. So now you can build a railroad without all the hard labor. Bachmann HO trains with the exclusive new Easy Track system. Now that's the way to run a railroad.
Welcome back back to the show. Joining us via satellite from Tallahassee, Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden. And Bobby, good to see you. Other than the swamp, did you have a nice Thanksgiving Day weekend?
Yeah, if we could have taken the swamp out of it, it would have been great. I ate beautifully.
It was a crazy go-nuts kind of weekend in college football. Nebraska shutting out Oklahoma, Ohio State upset in Ann Arbor, and then Florida defeating Florida State. Now, the polls released. Who did you vote number one?
Well, I think Nebraska is the best football team I have seen this year, and I have been saying that all year. Kicking, defense, offense. However, I think this about Florida. If Danny Werfel is hot, they can beat anybody.
So in that anticipated showdown with Florida-Nebraska, Coach, who are you leaning towards?
It's hard to lean for Florida now.
Yeah.
You know, they cost me my job. I think Nebraska, to me, again, is the strongest team. I've been saying that. Even Ohio State, as great as they've been looking, I felt like Nebraska was the most solid team in the country. But Florida is capable of beating them.
35-24. Let's talk about that game. Florida State, a natural rivalry, but how about Spurrier-Bowden? Does it run deeper?
No, not at all. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. He probably does me and my sons and everybody else. But it's a great rivalry. Florida State has really become one of the great rivalries. And you know, it's been Miami and Florida State the last 10 years. You know, one of us winning the national championship, and most of the time them in the 80s. Now Florida has gotten into the act. And so they've got the chance this year to do it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, Bobby. And before we discuss the power shift, the performance of Danny Werfel, when you cut it to 28-14, did you think you were going to come back against a team like this, or is the Gators really that good? Is there really that separation between Florida and Florida State?
We thought we could do it. I mean, there was no, now whether we were going to do it or not, that was a question. But when we got within 2 touchdowns with plenty of time to go, because remember last year we got 28 in the last 13 minutes. We had 15 minutes to go, man. That was a luxury. And we really thought it was fixing to happen. And I think they were about ready to think it, see? But then he puts us away on that last long pass he threw and just kind of stripped us again of what we thought we might be going to happen.
Yeah, Miami had its run, and then Florida State at the national championship. You had your run, and now it looks like it's being passed on to Florida. Has the balance of power changed in the state and maybe nationally?
I don't think that Florida State and Miami have gone down any as far as programs are concerned. There are going to be years where you're not going to win them all the time. You're just not going to do it, you know. So Miami had suffered through a little bit this year, but it looks like they're about to get back on track. We don't plan on dropping off any, but Florida has now gotten into the act, and this year, this seems to be their year. You know, it wouldn't surprise me for them to win it all.
How about for your year, Bobby? Ranked number one much of the season for Florida State. 2 losses for the first time since '91. How would you classify this as a major disappointment this season for you and the Seminoles?
I would say just if we could win our last game, I'd say disappointment, because we've been losing 1 or 1.5 games or 2 for the last 8 years. You know, thank goodness that's all. So it's not a major disappointment, but a disappointment. But when they pick you preseason number 1, this is the bad part of it. If you come out anywhere but number 1, it's a disappointment. You know. Is that
a joke, having a preseason poll before anybody's even played a game, labeling somebody better than the rest?
I don't think it's a joke. No, it's not real, but it's fun because people like the polls. I don't care what they say. Coaches say they don't like the polls. They're telling a dadgum story. How else can we rank our teams? And so I like the polls, and they have to pick somebody number 1. It does put puts a target on your chest, which you don't like, but I still think it's fun.
All right, let's go back to November 2nd when you were undefeated. You go into the Virginia game, suffer your first ever ACC loss, trailing in that game 33-28 with 4 seconds to go. You chose to run the ball with Warwick Dunn, who just came up short. Looked like he had a good shot at getting in. You've been second-guessed for that play call, Coach. Have you second-guessed yourself at all?
No, I haven't second-guessed the call yet, because I can't see in the film yet where the ball didn't score. I can't see where it didn't score. We think we got in, you know. The film showed the ball never, well, it showed it after it was either knocked out or out. I'm getting off my point. I mean, no, I think the call was good, and if we missed it, maybe we missed it that much. Throw it into the end. Think about this. A two-point conversion from the 3-yard line is less than 50% chance of making it. Now you move it back to the 6-yard line, that thing doubles, you know. And to throw the ball in the end zone where they're going to have all their people, I don't think we've been as good as our odds as running against a 3-man line. And I'm going to tell you, if he could have kept that ball here instead of there wouldn't have been a doubt, you know.
Did you have to convince your team at that time that the season was not lost because of that loss?
Yeah, I did, because of the fact that we were going to play Florida, who was ranked number 2 or number 3. So we knew we had somebody up the line that, hey, if we could stay undefeated and beat them, knock them out of the allowance and put us in there, because of that one thing, we still had a chance at that time.
In your years of coaching and experience, losing a game like this, do you react differently because of your experience?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I say react differently. This game is my typical loss, game after a loss, especially the magnitude of your big rival, Florida, is I can't sleep the night after the game, and I can't sleep the next night after the game. Then I get back to work and start looking at film, and then meet the press and tell our problems. Then I'm off out of it again. But the game hurts. It hurts. I guarantee you, losing hurts a heck of a lot more than winning feels good to me.
Does it still hurt as much as it did when you were coaching 10, 20 years ago?
Well, now that's a good question. I think maybe not quite as much, because I'm so much older now. You know, when I was 40 and 41 and 2 and striving to get to the top and not knowing if you're going to make it, it might hurt a little bit more because you said, gee, I'll never get there. But once you've been where I've been able to be, thank goodness, with a national championship under your belt and beating them our share nearly, you know, then I think you can take it just a little bit better.
Later, we'll talk about the fire that still burns within Bobby Bowden and his contract that'll keep him at Florida State through the year 2000. Up next, we'll talk to the Florida State head coach about running up the score if it's necessary today in college football to play the pole game. He's in Tallahassee. We're in Los Angeles. You know where you are. I'll be back in a moment.
Music Express, voted #1 by the National Limousine Association, has offices in Los Angeles and on the East Coast. Music Express can handle your corporate needs anywhere in the U.S. and worldwide. And guests of Up Close stay at the Beverly Prescott, L.A.'s premier boutique hotel. Call your travel agent to make reservations at the Beverly Prescott, a Kimpton hotel.
Most people know that award-winning Lawrence Lexus has the #1 rated luxury cars on the road today. But you may not realize we also offer an exciting selection of pre-owned vehicles. In fact, Lawrence Lexus has one of the largest inventories of quality pre-owned automobiles in the area, each one carefully inspected by our expert mechanics with prices you'll find surprisingly affordable. Lawrence Lexus, where our financing and leasing department can make your purchase effortless.
In your profession, people count on you for the right answers because you're successful. But you can't be expected to be an expert at everything. Today's investment environment is a maze of complex information, where knowing what to ask is as important as knowing what to do. At Princeton Securities, we take the time to help you identify your financial needs and personal goals, so you can choose realistic investment strategies for you and your family. Princeton Securities, helping you ask the right questions today.
March matchups in November. Arkansas versus Michigan State at 7. Then at 9, Marcus Canby and UMass lock up with Tony Delk and the Kentucky Cats. The DirecTV Grade 8. Coverage begins tomorrow on ESPN.
ESPN Net Sports Zone. The touchdown on the internet. Total NFL coverage. 24 hours a day. A blitz of information you can't find anywhere else. ESPN Net Sports Zone. The #1 football site on the internet.
Welcome back to the show. Chris Myers here in Los Angeles. Joining us via satellite from Tallahassee, Bobby Bowden of Florida State. And the Seminoles opened the season, Coach, beating Duke 70-26. And the next week, you sent a letter of regret, I guess you can call it, to Duke head coach Fred Goldsmith. Why did you feel the need to do that?
Well, number one, we don't usually score 70 points, and it really, I was catching a lot of criticism. Now, I can stand the criticism, but I began to wonder, well, maybe I should apologize, and it won't cost me anything, so I'm going to write him a letter of apology. And so I did. I don't know whether, I don't know if I should have not. I mean, he might have resented it.
Have you ever done that before, sent a letter to a coach after a game in regards to that?
No, I sure haven't.
So you don't know how he reacted, if he thought it was the right thing to do? Did he talk to you after you sent the letter?
I think I talked to him one time. I'm not sure, or maybe I read his response in the paper. He didn't say I didn't like it or I didn't appreciate it, but you know, some people would accept it that way. That's one reason I've never written a letter that way, and because again, I didn't try to run the score up.
Have you ever intentionally tried to run the score up?
Probably.
Really?
You know, we've probably somewhere, now hold it, I've been coaching 42 years. You didn't say yesterday. You didn't say yesterday.
No, I mean overall.
There's probably been a time I have, because maybe I didn't like the other guy.
Oh, okay.
Maybe he ran up on me one time. I don't hardly remember, you know.
Okay, but
I've had some big scores.
If somebody ran it up on you, then you would remember that, and you would run it up on them the next time you had the chance. Maybe.
It's according to whether I liked his family or something. You know, there might be somebody I like, and I wouldn't do it. But you know, those things usually balance out. I guarantee you, I've had people stick me, so I don't apologize too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's right. Who would you like to run it up against?
Florida now, because it beat us Saturday.
Well, and you'll certainly maybe get that chance in the future. Is it sad, though, and I know you've talked about this before, that in college football, sometimes you're in that position of having to run it up or losing ground in the polls? Is that wrong?
Well, yeah, but I really don't think coaches do that. The thing that made this thing so popular, this running up business so popular, on one certain weekend, maybe the third weekend of the season, maybe the second, we scored 77, Nebraska scored 77, Penn State scored 60-something. And it just happened we were all 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the nation, you know? So everybody assumed, well, everybody's trying to run the score up to be on top. Good teams are going to score. Look at the teams that get accused. It's the ones that are so doggone good, you know? And so, but anyway, I don't think coaches intentionally do that. You know, if you watch us, I mean, gee whiz, we were giving up a lot. We were giving up 26 points a game. I'd a lot rather shut you out and hold you down to 35.
Make it easy that way. Well, you'll have a chance to do that over there. You signed your contract that takes you through the year 2000 at Florida State, Bobby. Now, at the age of 66, can you still have the same kind of fire that you had when you were younger?
Good question. Right now, yes. Right now, the fire is there just like it's always been. You know, I was excited going into this year. I was excited before the ball game. It still kills me to lose. I don't want to quit. I enjoy working with kids. I'm not ready to go to Europe. You know, and so right now the fire is there like it's always been. How long it will remain there, I don't know, but as long as it does, that's how long I want to coach, because I have no desire to quit.
Now, be candid with us. You always are. Have you, in your quiet time over the last year or so, at least considered retirement, thought about it, and said, hey, you pictured yourself in that arena?
Not one day.
Really?
Not one day in my life can I remember looking back and say, oh, boy, I can't wait to retire, or I think I will retire. I can't remember a day where that's ever crossed my mind. All of a sudden, I've gotten old. You know, it seems like I used to be a young guy trying to work my way up in coaching, trying to get to the top, and the first thing you know, they're saying, hey, you got to retire next year. You're 65. Of course, Florida, we don't have a mandatory retirement, you know. So I'll be honest with you, I've never even, I think if I got sick and got feeling terrible, you know, then I might say, hey, I don't want to go out on the field anymore. But right. I just feel too good right now.
Well, you're obviously in it because you still enjoy it, but what do you not like about the coaching profession?
I see, what do you not like? There's only one thing, is the losing. That's the only thing, is the losing, and then the public criticism that comes with it. Now, I've been coaching a long time, but criticism is still tough. You know what? Because you simply want people to like you, and you want to be a success, and all of a sudden you're getting chopped up in the paper, and that's part of it, you know, but I don't know if you ever get used to that.
What's the greatest difference in players today, Bobby, compared to 10, 20 years ago?
I think the big difference is young men who are not quite as responsible as a whole as they used to be.
Do they respect authority less, generally?
I think there's more that respect it less than there used to be. You can't say they're all like that. But yeah, there's so many young men, and I think it all goes back to the sign of the times, the way our society is today. There's so many young men that are coming up without families, without families. Family is where you learn discipline, where you learn to depend upon each other. And there's so many young men that come up without that. I mean, over 50% of our young men, and nobody's ever told them no. Nobody's ever said, you can't do this. And they don't. So when a coach tells them not to do something, they go do it anyway, and we can help some of them that way. Naturally, we get criticized a lot because what some of our young people do. But I'm going to tell you what, we're helping a whole bunch of them, too.
Yeah, this season we saw Lawrence Phillips suspended 6 games at Nebraska, reportedly assaulting his girlfriend. Quarterback Scott Milinovich suspended at Maryland for gambling in college football. FSU still awaiting the NCAA rulings for the Foot Locker scandal from a couple of years ago. When you look back on these kinds of things, overall, how responsible is the coach?
Well, we're responsible because it's our ship, and the boys on our team that got involved in the Foot Locker thing, we suspended them from ball games. They had to pay the price. Now let's look at it this way. The worst thing some of my boys took, one of them ate a salad. One of them took and got him a salad. That was illegal. One of them got a pair of tennis shoes. One of them got a sweatsuit, I think, and a pair of tennis shoes. And some of those kids lost 4 games. Some of them lost 3, some 2. And that's a pretty big price to pay. So they paid the price for mistakes that was not against the law. It's not like they broke in a bank and stole something. Somebody gave them a pair of shoes, and they took them. But it violates an NCAA rule. So I hope people don't confuse a NCAA violation, which is wrong, with breaking a state law or a government law.
Well, you talk about players and needing things. Florida State signing a deal with Nike for $6 million coming into the school to wear their gear. The players aren't necessarily getting any of that, or seeing it in dollars. Should players be paid?
No. Well, they should be paid, but not just because you signed a Nike contract. I mean, gee whiz, I've been coaching 42 years, man. A CEO at a business, he hires some guy right out of college for his job. They shouldn't make equal salary just when he hired him. He hadn't earned his wages yet. Now, should they get paid some money? I think so. I've said that all along.
And if they were paid, you might not see some of these things that you just talked about. You agree with that?
I agree. Yes, I do agree. I think if we see, when I was playing, you got $15 a month back in the 40s. $15 a month. Now, back in the 40s, that's about $75 today. I'd give them all $75 a month. See, and that would keep, I think that would keep some of the petty problems along. Selling their tickets because they got to have money to go to the show. Selling a pair of shoes that wasn't theirs to begin with. Things like that. It don't happen all the time, but it happens some. In other words, kids would have some change in their pocket where at least it would defray some of the temptation they're faced with.
We'll continue talking with Bobby Bowden from Tallahassee in his 20th year as Florida State's head coach. His first and only national championship came here after the '93 season when Nebraska missed the field goal that gave Bobby that elusive national championship. His thought on the Heisman when we continue on Up Close.
Clothing provided by Renzi. Quite simply the finest clothing experience for men. Remember Renzi, we take your look seriously because we know you can't win if you're not even in the game.
Imagine these in
color. Gray.
Tangerine.
Dark gray bar is sails. Wedgwood blue and hunter green. You have to imagine it in color.
Sort of like the flower that's in your scarf.
Dark gray bar, projected sails. Everybody follow me?
When you need it in color.
No, I'm sorry.
At Kinko's, you can create it in color so you can show it in color. Kinko's, your branch office, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Let's go over this again.
They're still back there.
Don't worry, love. You're riding in the world's first sport utility wagon.
I am.
That's right. This here's the all-wheel drive Subaru Outback.
That's great.
You know, it's got more cargo space than a passport.
Uh-huh.
The ground clearance of an Explorer.
Yeah, look.
Oh, did I mention it gets much better gas mileage than a Jeep Cherokee?
Outback, you say?
Subaru Outback. The world's first sport utility wagon.
Onions? Plenty of onions.
I think it's going to be a great weekend, don't you?
Well, I'm looking forward to San Francisco playing.
Hey, how are you guys able to talk about every game on prime time? You can't watch every game.
Well, Art, we got a room with 13 TVs where all the games are on at the same time. 13 TVs, 13 TVs, 13 TVs.
Art. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. Hey, how come you guys never have me over to your house on Sunday?
Tuesday on Up Close, Hawks head coach Lenny Wilkins, no NBA coaches won more games. He'll talk about Olympic hoop etiquette. Wednesday, Buffalo receiver Andre Reed. The Bills are back. When will he be? Some reflective thoughts on those Buffalo Super Bowl years. Thursday, it's running back William Floyd. The 49ers are thinking back-to-back Super Bowl titles. Is San Francisco still worried about the running game? Friday, it's former Yankee manager Buck Showalter. Now he'll run the expansion Arizona Diamondbacks. His thoughts on Friday. Up next, more with Bobby Bowden, his Heisman vote, and scheduling the little guns.
Up Close is brought to you by Office Depot, taking care of business with guaranteed low prices on thousands of brand name office supplies.
I've never seen anything like it.
To infinity and beyond.
Some of them have been here for hours.
They can't put their puppets down. Hi, kitty. Oh. Howdy, partner. Howdy.
New at Burger King, Toy Story puppets from the magical Disney movie.
I'm Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger.
Get all 4 high-quality puppets for your kids. $1.99 each with any great-tasting value meal. Toy Story puppets. You can't put them down.
Looks like it's going to be a long night. I think we better get more puppets.
Hi, Tom Bodette for Motel 6 with some insight for the traveler. Well, this is what one of our rooms looks like when you're sleeping. And you know, it looks just like those big fancy hotels. Only difference is ours won't cost you nearly as much money. In fact, Motel 6 always has the lowest prices of any national chain on a clean, comfortable room. Makes you sleepy just looking at it. Well, I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Viva Las Vegas! Oh, what a town. Major celebrities running around. Call your buddy. Tell him you think you just saw Engelbert Humperdinck. Call 1-800-COLLECT. Save him some bucks.
With 2 coaches on the hot seat, is it going to be desert warfare between 2 longtime rivals, or will it be a battle for Buddy and Dan?
It's a football game, for God's sake. What else are you going to watch?
In the business of getting you to your destination on time.
Welcome back. We're winding down with Bobby Bowden. He's in Tallahassee, joining us via satellite. I know in the early days, Bobby, you took on all comers on the schedule just to get Florida State in position. But this year, Florida State's schedule come under some fire for being a little bit easier than what the school is accustomed to. Central Florida, Georgia, Southern. Do you think that hurt your team when it came time to play the top-ranked teams?
Not so much that, but I think it's hurting it right now in the voting. I noticed we dropped down 2 places last week. I didn't think it'd be quite that drastic, but I think a lot of that because people think, well, y'all didn't plan anybody, and when you did, you got beat. But you just realize we didn't plan it that way. Our schedule is made 10 years in advance. It just happened that way.
Well, right. Nebraska had Pacific. There was Florida with Northern Illinois. I guess the question is, should the major college powers be scheduling teams like this?
Well, they do what they want to do. I mean, it's according to how tough. You might have one group might have a tougher conference schedule than another group, so they need to, you know, to balance it up. I think you need to balance it somehow, and I think most of them do.
Florida State, now you're looking at the orange or the sugar. Which realistically do you think you'll wind up in?
I don't know. I keep hearing rumors. I won't even say. I hear rumors of one. I better wait, though. I don't think we'll know till Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, I don't want to get you in trouble because we're hearing that Virginia Tech may end up in the Sugar Bowl, which would have you going down to the Orange Bowl to play Notre Dame. That's a possibility. Would your guys respond to that, facing a Notre Dame team in the Orange Bowl a little bit better?
We'll respond to whatever's out there. I think we'll respond to one about as good as the other. We're going to get looks like we're going to get a tough opponent either place.
All right, as we touched on at the top of the show in the Florida State game, Danny Werfel, we got to see him up close in his 4 touchdowns. You've been watching Tommy Frazier for some 3 years or so, and then, of course, Ohio State's Eddie George. In your opinion, Bobby, who gets the Heisman Trophy vote if you were voting?
I felt going into the Florida weekend that Frazier and George were the leading contenders. It looked like to be a 2-man race, but I knew there were other possibilities, and I felt like somebody might come out of our game. I think Werfel is definitely a candidate right now. I wouldn't be afraid to vote for him one bit. He's good as any of them.
And people voting for the Heisman, what should they look for? What would you look for?
I think the player that helped take their team to the highest pinnacle. A lot of people say, well, he played for a small school, and he was one of the best there is, and he should be there. Yeah, but maybe he didn't play against the competition this other guy is. I think the team success needs to play a role in it also.
All right, well, thanks very much for your time. A pleasure, as always. Enjoy the bowl game wherever that is, and we'll talk to you again when you come out west.
Now, thank you very much.
All right, Bobby Bowden, head coach at Florida State. We appreciate him being with us here on Up Close. Thanks very much for watching from Los Angeles. Join us Tuesday. Lenny Wilkins will be here to talk pro hoops. We'll see you later on. Take care.